This is our presentation for Math 115 about the correlation between MLB salaries and success of teams. So baseball differs in lots of ways from other US sports, but one significant way is baseball doesn't have a salary cap. It has luxury taxes that try to keep player salaries in check, but they don't always do a great job of that. In other sports, there's a hard cap for how much teams can pay their players, whereas in baseball, there isn't a hard cap. So this creates a high level of parity between rich and poor teams. And we wanted to see the effects of that and the effects that how much teams are able to pay their players affects the wins that those teams get. So we did a number of different statistical analyses to figure out over time what effect the total payroll of teams has on the number of wins that they get in a given season. And in movies like Moneyball, we see the lengths that poor teams have to go to compete with these big market teams. And that's one of the things that inspired this project. You can go to the next slide.
Okay, so for our methods that we use to answer these questions, first we collected data on all 30 MLB teams from 2009 to 2019. A snapshot of this data can be seen on the right here. Some variables of interest when it comes to this data are wins, losses, winning percentage, team payroll. Our first method we used was a simple linear regression of team payroll predicting wins in RStudio. And then the second method we use is we average the wins, winning percentage, and team payroll for each of the 30 teams over the 11-year period. Good, next slide. Okay, so here are the results from the simple linear regression. As you can see, we have the equation from the simple linear regression below, where predicted wins equals 71.55138 plus 8.253711 times 10 to the negative 8 times team payroll. And this equation is plotted over a scatter plot of wins versus team payrolls right here in this graph. Both the parameters, the intercept and the point estimate for team payroll, are statistically significant at alpha level equals 0.1. Basically this means that there's a significant statistical relationship between wins and team payroll. While there may be a statistical relationship between these two variables, the model achieved an adjusted R squared of 0.09341, meaning 9.341% of the variability is explained by the model and wins. This means that the vast majority of the variation is still left unexplained by other factors. Yeah, next
slide. This next graph is similar to the last one. On the y-axis, you can see average wins for each MLB team, and then on the x-axis, you can see average payroll in millions. And similar to the previous graph, we can see that both the parameters, the intercept and point estimate for average team payroll, are significantly significant with an alpha level of 0.01, and it achieved a higher adjusted R squared value of 0.338, which means that the majority of variability is still left unexplained. So similar results to the previous graph. You can go to the next slide.
So this chart depicts the average wins, the average win percentage, and the average payroll for the top 10 teams in baseball in terms of average wins and average win percentage. As you can see, there are some big names in here like the New York Yankees, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Boston Red Sox, who have 9-digit salary average payrolls. And these are some of the bigger teams in baseball that are either known worldwide or heavily followed throughout the US. And they have more money and more access to different financial benefits than the other teams, such as the Tampa Bay Rays, which only have 65 million to spend on their average payroll. And the average wins are so high because there are 162 games in an MLB season. And this is a lot more than other American sports. And then in bigger market teams like New York and Los Angeles, the teams are bringing in more money because they're playing 162 games, so they have more money to spend. There are 7 different teams that have a 9-digit payroll, and then there are 3 that have an 8-digit payroll. So the difference in these payrolls can be seen with the Yankees having the highest win percentage and spending the most money, and then followed up by the Dodgers, who also have a high win percentage. The outlier for this is the Tampa Bay Rays, who rank 5th in winning percentage while spending only $65,653,195 on their average payroll per season, far less than any of the teams, almost half of what the Boston Red Sox spend, and then a lot less than most of the other teams, 25 million less than the next closest team.
And our interpretation of this data is that there does seem to be a slight statistical relationship between a higher average payroll and a higher win rate. But there are still factors that really aren't accounted for by just this data that definitely contribute to team successes. Some of these factors include who the coach is, who the manager is, who the general manager is, the front office, their tactics, their strategies, their video analysts, stuff like that. As we know, baseball is a very statistically heavy sport. So their statistical analysts are a major part of their success. One team that embodies this are the Tampa Bay Rays, who, despite having a relatively low average payroll, like of only about $65.6 million, still achieved massive success in the past 11 years, including 3 ALDS appearances, an ALCS win, and a World Series loss in 2020. The Tampa Bay's recent success on a very low average payroll can be contributed to hiring a new manager in 2015, as well as hiring a new general manager who revamped the front office in 2017. So that was all within a relatively short span, within a 2-year period. They also used aggressive trade strategies. They'd pick up lower tier players for pretty low and then turn them around, kind of like what Moneyball did with the Oakland Athletics. Next slide.
Over the course of this presentation, we have examined several different statistical analysis methods we worked with throughout the semester. These methods allowed us to gain a new perspective on Major League Baseball and understand the importance of a salary when trying to put together a successful team. We also examined the phenomena that is the Tampa Bay Rays. The importance of the Rays lies with their consistent success during the 11-year period, paired with their low payroll. While the more efficient way to put a winning team on the field would be to sign star players to big money contracts, the Rays show us that there is more to baseball than money.